eyes are lying to you. And the lie is costing you your energy, your relationships, and your presence. When you look in the mirror, you don't see yourself. You see a mental concept. A mental concept with a collection of frozen ideas as labels. Not enough, too smart, too wild. Take that in. These labels become an identity, and the identity becomes a story, and the story becomes a prison. What if you're not the labels? What if you are this quiet presence, untouched by labels? Rumi, the great Sufi poet, once wrote, "I'm bewildered by the magnificence of your beauty and wish to see you with 100 eyes." He knew our physical eyes alone are not capable of capturing this immense presence that human beings are. Remember when you were a child? You had endless energy, and your native language was wonder. You would sing without shame. You would ask 1,000 questions. And in your heart, you knew anything was possible. I remember myself at that age. I would run outside into the yard barefoot, and I would hold a sunflower in my hand, truly believing I could turn it into a star. And then the sticky notes started to appear as labels. Dreamer, careless, stubborn. And because these labels came from authority figures, I took them in as my truth. Take that in. When we use our adults' language and internalize it as our truth, well-meaning adults, they don't mean any harm, what happens? This is where, when I took that in as my truth, little by little, the real me got buried under the labels. How much of you is buried under the labels that you adopted as a child? The rational mind uses labels to make life predictable, manageable, and safe. And in the process, what it's doing is, it's shoving our huge presence into small, little, labeled boxes. Now that's suffocating. And I realized the pain of that suffocation very early on. It was 1990, summertime, and I was filled with road rage, zipping through traffic, trying to catch up with the stranger who had just cut me off. And from the back seat, a little voice, "Mom, are you okay?" What? How could I forget the kids were in the back seat? Was I really that careless? Oh, that label. Maybe there was some truth to that label. I was careless. Rage turned into shame, and it was in that moment I made a promise to myself that I was going to dive deep and figure out what lived underneath the rage that I felt from time to time. So I studied a lot of books, went to numerous courses, and guess what? I took on more labels and more boxes. Until I came across Einstein's beautiful work. His famous quote, "That's overused and least understood. You cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it." it was then I decided to become a scientist of my own experiences. And what I noticed was that when I was most creative, it was as though the world opened up to me. I felt expansive, as if something bigger than life was carrying me through. And the results, I would feel wise. I would feel lovable, loving, and kind. Not an ounce of rage on this side. And then when I felt reactive, it was the opposite, as though the world was closing in on me. My muscles would tighten up. And I was squeezing in this box. And the results? I was reckless, imploding or exploding. And then I stepped back and asked myself the question, which one is the real me? The reckless one or the loving, wise, powerful one? I asked my coaches, my mentors, my friends who really saw me beyond labels, and they said, neither. And that's when I realized that we are conscious awareness, witnessing our experiences, witnessing the experiences we are experiencing. We are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, we are not our experiences. Ancient wisdom figured this out way before we could even think. They mapped out human experiences to elemental forces. Not 4, but 5 elemental forces. Space. Space is the field of conscious awareness where your vision, your aspirations, and your dreams live. Air. Air is the vital life force where clarity is born. Fire. Fire is a transformative power that gives you courage and conviction. Without it, no change would be possible. Water. Water is the river of engagement, where people and ideas connect, they come together. And earth, the foundations we stand upon. We build our results on earth. When these 5 elements are balanced, we experience power, harmony, love. And when they're off balance, we experience the opposite: stress, burnout, disengagement. So next time you begin to feel stressed out, or you feel like you're stuck in a box, I invite you to do something profound and simple. Awaken, align, and amplify. Awaken to the living intelligence in you, which is the conscious awareness. The vast field where your aspirations and dream live. Align to the 5 elemental forces. When earth is off balance, you experience being rigid. When water is off balance, you become overwhelmed. When fire is off balance, you become reckless like me. When your air is off balance, you overthink, analysis paralysis. When sky is off balance, when space is off balance, you experience your head in the clouds. Now that AI is here, we have nowhere to hide it's giving us a beautiful opportunity to open up and really step up and recognize who we are. Because it can do most everything humans can. What is unique? It is our living intelligence. That's where your beautiful ideas come in. That's where your wisdom is born. That's where when you're in the zone, in the flow. I want you to go ahead and place your hand on your heart. Feel that pulse? That pulse is not just human biology. It is the same force that moves the oceans, spins the planets, and lights the stars. You, the flower that I held when I was little, and the star, you're all made of the same cosmos. That is how powerful you are. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You're not a toaster oven. You don't need fixing. All you need is the great remembering on who you truly are. And I'm going to leave you with one question. What would become possible when you begin to see yourself and others with 100 eyes?